There I go. Sorry about that. I was trying to upload something that I want to share with you. It looks like it's not uploading. So I guess I will share that tomorrow. Pivoting. All right. So good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tip Tuesday. Today is the 19th day of April. This is the 77th episode of season 3 of the Be Your Own Hero show. HERO is an acronym. It means helping everyone reach optimism. In other words, helping others helps you. It's a reciprocal action. I'm your host. I'm sekouwrites. I'm a professional creative. I'm an author, journalist, blogger, influencer, playwright, jewelry maker. I do a bunch of different things. I'm also the creator of the Hero Ministry movement, which is my effort to uplift and inspire people in general, and specifically the unhoused community. So join me here Monday through Friday to hear me talk about my journey of becoming my own financial hero. And shout out to New Thought Media Network for allowing me this platform to talk about my journey of becoming my own financial hero. If this show provides any value, please like, please comment, most of all, please share. And quick disclaimer, I'm not a personal trainer nor am I a financial advisor. So please take what I say with a grain of salt and do your own due diligence. That said, here in season 3, I finally decided what the niche of the show is. And so I am dedicating myself to speaking about financial literacy to artists and retirees, because in my mind, those two groups overlap in terms of use of time and having enough free time to learn and to invest. All right, so that's where we are. Let's get into it. Let's get into today's Hero Ministry Movement news. So I wanted to share, we'll just talk about it tomorrow. I'll upload it, make it all pretty, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. But just so you know, this is in reference to a podcast episode that I was interviewed on this past weekend. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Today is day 323 of my run streak, and I'm not going to play the run report, but I want to highlight the theme of today's run report. The theme is destroying excuses. More specifically, why you can't destroy excuses. Why you can't destroy excuses. So go check out today's run report. It's up on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok. Okay, so moving on. Moving on to the dice roll challenge. Got my dice, my handy dice ready to go. Now, the reason we're doing this, just a reminder, or for those of you seeing the show for the first time, the reason we're doing the dice roll challenge is because the number one excuse for people not investing is, I don't have enough money to invest. But this little thing right here is going to help you have the money to invest. So the idea is every day you set aside the amount of a cup of coffee for investing. That's really it. There is no number higher than 6 on a single die, right? And so from $1 to $6 is what you set aside every day. Basically, the price of a cup of coffee, from a budget cup of coffee to a high-end cup of coffee, but about the same. And then that becomes your investment money. If you have no other way of investing, this becomes your investment money. So all that said, let's get into the dice roll challenge. Today's number is 4. Today's number is 4. Yesterday's number was 1. For those of you keeping track, if you missed yesterday and you want to add it up, yesterday was 1, today's 4, so $5. If you didn't do yesterday, move that money from a checking account into your investing account so you can have some money to invest. And you need that. Okay. That said, let's move on to some other things. Let's talk about the morning Zen. So you've heard me talk about the 7-day mental challenge, 7-day mental diet. Sorry. I've talked about the 7-day mental diet extensively over the past couple weeks. And then Nan hit me up and let me know that she couldn't find what I was reading from in her version of the book, which prompted me to get the version of the book that she has. And I discovered that they are 2 very different books. So let me explain. So this is the 7-day mental diet that I have now. The one that I was reading before is the 7-day mental diet on the Kindle app in my phone, right? They are both they're both listed as being by Emmett Fox, right? Except the one on my phone has an illustrator, and the introduction is written by someone else. So this is what's going on. This book, the original book by Dr. Emmett Fox, was written a long time ago. Can I find the date really quick? No, but he passed away in the 1950s. So this book predates that, right? So it's in the public domain. So the person who released the book on Amazon took the book and took some liberties and added some illustrations, because this book has no illustrations, and his own philosophies. Now, all that's perfectly legal. And indeed, it's similar to what I did with The Science of Getting Rich. So for those of you who've been following the show for a while, you know that I created a podcast called Get Rich 101, in which I read The Science of Getting Rich, a book by Wallace D. Wattles that was written in 1910. And can I find that? I was hoping to find the podcast really quick, but I can't find it at the moment. So anyway, I was able to do that because that book also is in the public domain. So what I did is I read the book almost verbatim. There were some words that I updated to be more modern because the way we use language has changed quite a bit since 1910. But essentially, I read it verbatim, and then separately, I gave my thoughts and responses and my own ideas. So the person who did the 7-Day Mental Diet that I purchased off the Amazon Kindle app did not do that. There is no clear demarcation between what is Emmett Fox's and what is his. So I wish he had done that. Just because, again, like, there's nothing wrong with what he did, but I wish he'd been more clear about which words are by Emmett Fox and which words are by him, so that I can attribute appropriately. So most of what I have been talking about here on the show are actually not Emmett Fox's ideas. They're the ideas of the person who remixed the book. And that's fine because they're good ideas, but I want to attribute appropriately. So I read this book cover to cover last night. It's a quick read, and I'm going to be talking more about this book, this version of the book, separate from the way I was talking about it before. Right? I hope all that makes sense. And again, like, I have done something similar with The Science of Getting Rich. You can do that with a book that's in the public domain, but I just think you ought to have a decent tip of the hat to the person who did the work previously. All right, so that's where we are with the 7-Day Mental Diet. I'm going to be reading from and talking about this version before I go back to the other version. Because as a matter of fact, like, almost 100% of the exercises that I've talked about here were created by the guy who remixed the book. And I keep referring to him that way because I can't quite pronounce his name. I think it's pronounced Routes. So most of the ideas that I've been talking about came from Routes, not from Emmett Fox. Okay, so I want to say something quickly about this book, and then I'll move on. But something that stood out to me this time, again, I guess this is my first time reading the book by Emmett Fox, because I've been reading the book by Routes over and over. So this is my first time reading the original. But this really stood out to me. I want to read this passage. Again, you know the basics, right? The 7-Day Mental Diet is about creating a diet for your mind, for your mentality, for your mindset, for your thoughts, similar to you creating a diet for your physical body. You limit what comes in, right? Okay, so here we go. Your only chance is definitely to form a new habit of thought, which will carry you through when you are preoccupied or off your guard. I'm going to read that again. Your only chance is definitely to form a new habit of thought, which will carry you through when you are preoccupied or your guard is off, right? Very important idea. And it reminded me of something called the default mode network. So in my recent study of neuroscience, it's opened my eyes in so many different ways, because we like to think of ourselves as so different from each other. But when you start studying neuroscience, you realize that, yeah, we're all snowflakes, we're all different, but there are fundamental things about the ways our minds work that are the same across the board. There's a sameness about the way our minds work. And once you understand that and you start studying the sameness, then it really opens your eyes. So the default mode network in my own language, and then I'm going to show a video where it's explained a bit more. In my own language, this is your baseline personality. So basically, when you are preoccupied, or when you're at rest, let me say it a different way. When you're at rest, when you're not particularly thinking about anything, studies have shown that there are regions of your brain that activate, that become more active when you're vegging out. When you're zoning out, there are parts of the brain that kick up a notch. And those parts of the brain are kicking up to, there's some debate about what they're doing. But again, in my language, they're kicking up to reestablish the patterns that you've already created, the patterns of thought you've already created, the ideas that you already believe in, to double down on those ideas. And so this habitual mind kicks in when you veg out. So when you're, in my case, if you're binge watching something, as I used to do quite a bit, that old programming is getting more active. So I'm going to show a video about this to help explain it a bit. And it's an important idea to be aware of. Like this is science. This is not fiction. This is something that has been proven and talked about in many different journals by many different schools, many different scientists. And the idea is you've got to reprogram your default mode network to kick up with the kinds of things you want it to kick up with. Otherwise, it's going to just run the same old programming over and over and over again. So anyway, I found this video this morning that kind of helps explain it a little bit better. So I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this will give you a sense. This video is by Dan Harris.
There's no way a fidgety and skeptical news anchor would ever have started meditating were it not for the science. The science is really compelling. It shows that meditation can boost your immune system, lower your blood pressure, help you deal with problems ranging from irritable bowel syndrome to psoriasis. And the neuroscience is where it really gets sci-fi. There was a study out of Harvard that shows that short daily doses of meditation can literally grow the gray matter in key areas of your brain, having to do with self-awareness and compassion, and shrink the gray matter in the area associated with stress. There was also a study out of Yale that looked at what's called the default mode network of the brain. It's a connected series of brain regions that are active during most of our waking hours when we're doing that thing that human beings do all the time, which is obsessing about ourselves, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, doing anything but being focused on what's happening right now. Meditators not only turn off the default mode network of their brain while they're meditating, but even when they're not meditating. In other words, meditators are setting a new default mode. And what's that default mode? They're focused on what's happening right now.
Okay, so that's a good place to stop. Meditation disrupts the default mode network. And as you know, I just started doing TM, which is short for Transcendental Meditation, because of Reverend Melissa's influence. And so, based on that video, I can't recommend enough that you develop a regular habit of meditation so that you can disrupt and reprogram your default mode network. And again, you heard him reference the science and the sci-fi-ness of it. It sounds sci-fi because you haven't heard about it. But I've been reading about the default mode network now during the pandemic. This is not my first time experiencing it. And the first time I heard of it, I was like, what? And all of our minds do this. No one's excluded. Like, this is one of the ways that there's a sameness between the way our minds work. It's very important to understand the things that we work, or begin to study the things that we don't know about the sameness of how our minds work. So all that said, that quote by Emmett Fox reminded me of the default mode network. I'm just going to read it again to bring it full circle, and then we'll move on. So Your only chance, and what he's talking about, your only chance of changing the way your mind works. Your only chance is definitely to form a new habit of thought, which will carry you through when you are preoccupied or off your guard. In other words, when the default mode network kicks in, you've got to have a habit that you've created to reprogram that default mode network. I hope that wasn't too airy-fairy to follow. If it was, just Google default mode network, go down the rabbit hole. You will be shocked. You will be shocked and entertained. All right, so moving on from the default mode network, moving on from the actual original 7-day mental diet, let's talk about money. It's about time to talk about abundance. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. Let's see if I have time to talk about both. But first, let's kick it off with our affirmation. Shout out to the people watching live. Shout out to Tim. Shout out to Simone. I see you guys in the chat. Appreciate it. So let's start with our affirmation. We're going to do it twice. Once for the words, second time for the feeling. Those of you who have been watching the show for a while, you should hit it both times with feeling. Get it down into your bones. So, first time, here we go. I am so happy and grateful to be a multi-millionaire in every area of my life. Second time, with feeling, get it in your bones, emote it, feel the feelings, feel the feelings, feel the feelings. Here we go. I am so happy and grateful to be a multi-millionaire in every area of my life. Ashe and amen. Like when you hit it right, it feels like you got to say amen afterwards. Like when you hit it right, it moves differently in your body. So hope you guys hit it right at home. I hope I'm not just reciting this to myself up here. Hope you guys are doing this too. This is for everybody. Okay, so my reminder, as always, if you only spend, you'll stay poor. If you only save, you'll stay middle class. However, if you want to become wealthy, you must invest. It is not optional. You must invest. So, first thing I want to do is unpack that a little bit. I say it just about every show, but I want to unpack it a little bit to make it a bit more accessible. If you only spend, you'll stay poor. That's part one. Well, we live in a consumer culture. The whole culture of America is consumerism. Haven't you noticed that when you get more money, you spend more money? Like that's the way society is set up to get you to spend more. So very rare is the person that gets more money, but then maintains their lifestyle at the previous financial level. They move up, they start acquiring more things and acquiring more things. And so the amount left over remains very small and very small and very small as their expenses expand. So the first thing is we've been trained to consume in this consumer culture. Don't do that. Don't do that. You've already done that, right? And it hasn't changed your life, right? Your life is the same. Nothing has shifted. So don't do that anymore. Like, fight the urge to be a consumer. That's the first part. Second part is if you only save, you'll stay middle class. If you only save, you'll stay middle class. What's that mean? Well, it means that if you just save money, let's just keep it to that. If you just save money and put it in a savings account, you're not actually getting ahead. Inflation is reducing the value of the money that you saved significantly. And over time, it continues to devalue. So you save $100 year one, year two, that $100 can only buy you $80 worth of goods and services, depending upon the rate of inflation. But it will buy you less than what it could have bought you when you set it aside. And we get in the habit of saving, feeling like we're getting ahead. But as I mentioned yesterday, unless you are also investing the amount saved, then you're not getting ahead. So the example I gave yesterday was if you go to a grocery store and you use coupons, there's a readout on the screen that says you save X amount of dollars, right? We've all seen that. Even in shopping carts, if we're a frequent member of some website and we buy something, it'll often say you save X amount of money. You didn't save any money. They just reduced their profit a little bit, but they still got a profit, right? So the whole table is skewed, but in terms of your growth, in terms of your development, in terms of you changing your financial life, you can start taking that number and writing it down. You saved $53 on groceries today. Write that number down. Get home, take $53 out of your checking, invest it. You saved $6 ordering something on Amazon. Take that $6 and invest it. Like, don't be satisfied with just the number that pops up. And say, oh, I saved some money. No, you didn't. You didn't save no money. And you didn't get ahead. You know this because you've already done that. Like, most of your life, you've seen that pop up in places, right? Where it says you save X amount of money. Did your life change? No, it did not, because you didn't invest it. So go invest it. Now, if you're not doing a dice roll challenge, I'm going to call this the coupon challenge. Start that. Start that, right? Pay attention to that number whenever it comes up, and then go invest that little bit of money into a brokerage account. Okay, and the third part of that reminder that I give every day is, if you want to be wealthy, you must invest. Now, I grew up thinking about investing as optional, right? But it's not optional. You have to put your money to work for you. Once you do that, then you've got an employee, quote unquote, out there working. Like, it's not working in your savings account. Like, what are you getting? Like a half a percent? That's not enough to cover inflation. You're losing money. You're losing value there. But if you put it to work for you, it will make you money, right? And this brings me to something else I wanted to talk about. I mentioned the Roth IRA, and all of this is coming together. So I've talked about me doing Transcendental Meditation, and sidebar, you have to take a class. I took it was like a 4-session class, and everyone else in my class, all my classmates were having transcendental experiences. They were like, oh, I feel like I'm floating. Oh, my body's tingling. All these really magical experiences. I had none of that. Just to be clear, I had none of that. I was like, man, maybe I'm doing something wrong, because all that happened for me is I fell asleep. Every time I fell asleep. And I said that out loud. Like, I didn't shy away from it. That's been my experience. Typically, when I do TM, I fall asleep, right? But as you've seen, if you've been watching the show, things are coming through to me, even though I fall asleep. Just about every TM, every time I meditate. Things are still coming through. There was a reminder to get in touch with Mr. Charles about the charity run, about the money that we set aside for him. Oh, speaking of which, quick sidebar, I want you all to see what it looks like to have $1,000 worth of 20s, $1,000 in 20s. Look at this. Look at it. I told you it looked like a book. That's crazy, right? It looks like a book. That's $1,000 in $20 bills. You talk about someone being nervous walking around with that stack of money. I couldn't get to the car fast enough. All right. Anyway, so we're going to link up this week. Back on track. So I got a nudge from the universe during meditation to get in touch with Mr. Charles and close the loop on this giving. Right? My alarm's telling me to wrap it up. And also I got a nudge from the universe that told me to open a Roth IRA. And I was like, all right, like, I don't even know that much about Roth IRAs, but I did it. Matter of fact, I opened 2 because I recognize that something is coming through. In some way, I am reprogramming my default mode network to give me suggestions, to give me hints, to give me communiques from the universe, right? So I'm pulling together all the things that I've talked about today on this show. So meditation and default mode network. And so where we are now, I got to get past the photo of the stack of cash. So where we are now is talking about the IRA. So the Roth IRA, I just did it because the meditation told me to do it. But since then, I've been paying more attention to what it is. So let me just talk briefly about that. So an IRA, as you probably know, is an individual retirement account, right? Now, what's different about a Roth IRA versus other IRAs? And quick sidebar, there are rumors that this loophole will be closed soon. So if you're listening to this show, if you're under the sound of my voice, if you're an artist or a retiree, you better jump on this. All right, so the difference between a Roth IRA and other IRAs is The other IRAs take the money typically out of your paycheck automatically, and they put it in the IRA, which means it hasn't been taxed yet, right? It went straight into that IRA. Later on, when you pull the money out, you have to pay the tax here. That's when you got to pay the taxes. Now, the challenge with that is that you might have started putting money into that IRA when you were making $20,000 a year. But now you got $1 million in there and you want to take it out, you take the hit on the $1 million. Like you take the hit on the higher amount. You don't get taxed on that money as if you're still making $20,000 a year. So keep that in mind. But to my point, the difference is with Roth IRAs, you're putting in money that is already in your account. So you're putting in money that has already been taxed. The money's already come to you and you decide to put the money in. Therefore, when you get the money out, it's not taxed. That money's already been taxed. Reminder, there are rumors that this loophole will be closed soon. So move your feet. That said, the reason that people are afraid of the Roth IRA is because it's self-directed. Like once you put the money in the account, you have to tell the money where to go. And most people don't want to do that because they're scared about how vast and confusing the world of finance is. And I've been one of those people, and I'm sure you have too. Well, it's just like going to Sam's for the first time. You ever been to Sam's? You go in there for the first time, it's like, oh my God, look at all this stuff. It's vast and it's confusing and it's overwhelming. But if you keep going there, what happens? You get used to it. You know where to get the thing. You know, I got to go down that aisle and that aisle over and get the thing, and I'm out, right? You know how to shop in that vast environment. And that's what's happening on this show. We're learning how to shop, even though there's so many things in the store. We're learning that we don't have to be concerned with everything that's in there. It's actually, that's a very good metaphor. The Sam's Club metaphor. I have to rock with that because people often tell you that the dealing with the stock market is dangerous, right? Everyone says that. It's dangerous. Don't go in there. Well, they sell guns in Sam's, right? But do you say it's too dangerous to go in? No. I mean, get off the aisle with the alligators and the guns, but go over to the aisle with the fruit and the trail mix, right? You can get what you need out of the store. Like, don't not go in the store because people say it's dangerous. Don't not get into the stock market because people say it's dangerous. Learn how to shop in the stock market. So bringing that full circle, you open the Roth IRA account. By the way, as before, I was shocked that you do not have to have a minimum balance to open the account. You can open it with zero. And then start putting items in your shopping cart. If you only buy index funds and put the index funds in your Roth IRA, you're golden. Like, that's enough. You don't have to know anything more than go to the aisle with the index funds and get some index funds and put it in your shopping cart with your money that's already been taxed, and let that money grow. Like, that's gold. That's Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett said so. Not Sekou. Warren Buffett. Just grab the index funds. Now, for point of reference, index funds generally cost around $300 to $500 per share. So that means that if you're investing less than that, you got to kick it up. You got to kick it up a notch to be able to acquire whole shares of index funds and put them in your Roth IRA. So that's what I have to say about the Roth IRA and how I was led to open an account. I haven't done anything yet other than open an account, well, 2 accounts accidentally. But I intend to do what I'm saying here. I intend to grab some index funds and stick it in my Roth IRA, and that's it. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Okay, so I'm out of time for today. I might talk about Roth IRA some more. Reminder, this week is pre-sit for Sit with Rev Melissa, which means these are the episodes that we did on Facebook before there was the New Thought Media Network. The Facebook episodes are like 3 to 5 minutes. I had somebody hit me up yesterday like, yo, where's Sit? Yeah, you missed it. It's only 4 minutes. Don't be late. Don't be late this week for Sit with Rev Melissa. You got to be there at 10:30 Eastern time. Wait a minute. 10:30 Eastern? Yeah, 10:30 Eastern to catch it because it's very quick. So you didn't miss yesterday's episode. It's up. It's just very short. All right. So I'm already cutting into prayer time. So let me jump off. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me talk about Roth IRAs and how they're coming to me in meditations and the Default Mode Network. Go Google that. All right, join me here tomorrow for the same thing. Keep doing, be a hero, be your own financial hero. Remember that now is better than perfect. Later.